So this is a conversation between Ed and me. So, you all know Barbara, but Barbara is just, I discovered her work here, visited the studio a number of times, and so found something very special, and I was going to talk about it first, about inspirational work.
Thank you. Okay, well, first thanks everyone for being here today. This is an honor. Thank you, Patty and Kevin. I can't tell you how thrilled I am that my paintings will be a part of their life. And I hope you have many happy years together. Quickly, I want to thank my husband Rick, did a great job of installing them. You'll see them soon. And thank Deb Cricken, who's doing our video, whatever you call that, recording. And I'm just going to give you sort of a brief overview of how I work, and then we'll unveil and talk about the work a little bit. My work is, big picture, it's life. It's about life and diversity and the complexities of life and levels of consciousness and sort of how I get there is through process. So as an artist, I love process. I've always loved making things with my hands, getting my hands dirty, and it's still true to this day. So process guides me into the art making, and that's where I use a visual language to create meaning, I guess. It's about a dialogue. I start with collaging, and which is made up of painting, drawing, printmaking, all different types of art. And it grows from there. And so each painting is a journey unto itself. And what happens is that there's a call and response that takes place. And that's how the paintings develop. The painting leads the way, I follow, and there's kind of a metaphor to that whole process, a metaphor of life, where you start out, you follow, you make decisions, you have to make changes, you adapt, and eventually you reach a stasis, a resolution. So my intention is for people to enter into the work and have an experience and somehow relate to this language that I've created, which is not codified, but it does share in the tradition of visual art through art history and mark making and just what we do as artists. And having, I think of paintings as living and breathing things. I think they have an aura. So when you compare a painting to a reproduction, there is no comparison. A painting has presence. It is present, and it pulls people in, and it really is, I think, like a living thing. So from there, I think a good idea would be to look at the art that's present right now. And
The drum
Flip
roll?
that.
Oh, so that was,
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful.
That looks perfect. Yes.
That
Wow.
looks perfect.
You have to move the orange carriage
Yes.
over.
You're right. So, I remember, these paintings are from 2014, so they go back. I remember the day so vividly. I was working in the barn. We have a barn, had the doors open, and it was fall. And it was a beautiful day, but it was fall, and so the process of decay was happening. I was thinking about mortality. I was thinking about eternity. I was thinking about rebirth and just the cycles and how it just, this process of life as a continuum. And they came out of that thinking. And from there, what else? Kevin saw something very interesting in these works. I was using, I don't appropriate or illustrate. I sort of think of myself as a conduit, and then I transmit it through sort of this language, and a lot of what I do is internal thinking, and sometimes I even draw and paint with my eyes closed and feel my way through it. So it's about going inward. And so on the one on the left, I'm not going to dissect them, but I do want to just point to the one on the left where the large black shape in the middle, for me, was suggestive of a labyrinth, which is a tool for meditation, and that was sort of a cue for me that this work was a meditation. But then, you know, the rest is more like automatic drawing and feeling. So I think from there, I'd like to introduce Kevin to come and speak about what attracted him to the works and why he chose to have the two works. Because it started out
an
as
interesting
one.
one, huh?
Okay,
Thank you.
and thank you.
Thank you.
So, my entry to the city, stage left, was I go on the art walks around Newburgh. And first, it wasn't the first year I came up here, but it was somewhere along the way. And I used to go up to Barbara's tea shop in Newburgh on Saturday mornings. I met other people in Newburgh there, and I met some of the artists up there as well. So anyway, started going to Newburgh. First piece I bought actually was from another artist, Terry Vargas, a Gestalt piece up on the Sleeping Rock. But so I come back every year and I go around as many of the studios as I could get in all the time, and found there was a lot of interesting things going on. It was just I thought it was better than Beacons.
Yes,
Yes.
Newburgh.
Thumbs up, right? And then I found, of course, there's some even closer to home here in Cornwall. So anyway, so I talked to the artists on the way around if I could catch them in, and I talked with Barbara a few times in the studio, and so you know I asked about how she approaches her art and you know, where she gets the ideas from. Not really ideas, but feeling, sense of things. And she said she worked by inspiration. That's all I need. Because inspiration is one of the key things in science, art, and religion also. It's definitely, science and religion is the way I've looked at it, but definitely in art also. This is a kind of bridge between the two in many ways. And one of my favourite sayings from Albert Einstein is when asked about who was the most rational man in the world for the great discoveries, he said, no, I don't get my discoveries from the rational mind, I get it from my intuitive mind. This was really, if you think of from the science viewpoint, it's supposed to be more about logic and cause and effect and all the other things, but that was not the case. In terms of discovery, there were like 3 different people who invented the light bulb at the same time, who were probably not familiar with one another's work in different parts of the world. There's a synchronicity about things as well, and it's this kind of inspiration that comes from somewhere. Doesn't matter where it comes from, but it's there. So anyway, Barbara had a show in Manhattan, so I teach down there. So I stopped in on one of the nights there, enjoyed the food and ambience. But I think it was 3 pieces that I saw that had seemed like a similar theme, but and these were 2 of them right here. And I thought, well, I'm going to talk to Barbara a bit more about this. So I got in touch with her, and I think it was, and we talked about arranging a visit to Sylvia, so we could look a bit more closely. She was busy that day, so she only met one. It was still wrapped up from the Manhattan Art Show. And so I looked at it and I showed it to Paddy, so we put this together. And I said, yes, this is the one I was looking for. And so took it away. And then Barbara got in touch with me not long afterwards and said there was the other one. She didn't show it to me. She was kind of busy at the time and had to wrap up in the studio. So she said, just in case the one you're thinking of was this one and not the first one. This could be very clever marketing, by the way. Of course, I assessed it, so it was, but if it was marketing, it was very good.
Trust me, it wasn't.
It was when I saw that Barbara sent me a photo of it, and right away I knew these 2 paintings, these are connected.
One can't go without the other.
Yeah. I had to have both of them.
Of course.
I immediately negotiated on a price, because she gave me a significant discount on the first one. I just want to make sure I was going to get the same discount. So I bumped up the price.
He's a trick.
The implicit thing for me, these things were really integrally connected. There was you couldn't take one without the other. So I know a bit about inspiration and so on, but I just, as I looked at them more, it was just clear. There was only one thing that would be connected, that was like a man and a woman in a real relationship. So for me, it became Adam and Eve. This was, especially in the detail on the paintings, on the work, collages. But there's a lot of detail that says the same thing. So I was talking to Jackie recently about narrative art. So this is something she was very interested in. I call this, the pieces I've got here, I call them symbolic realism, because there's a real thing embedded in it, but it's done through kind of symbolic type of language. But anyway, I picked up on the narrative art piece, so this is my my intro on this today also. Embedded in here is one of the greatest narratives you can ever find. I just want to show you. And basically, when Barbara came to look at work and we started up in the prayer room upstairs in the supermarket. And so we talked about the Adam and Eve thing, and the man and woman, and so Barbara, well, how did I know which was which? I said, that's easy. This one's more forceful, more forceful, sometimes for bad, but always for bad, sometimes for good. But it's a way of doing things, and so this was Adam. And the other one was Eve. And there's a lot more subtlety and detail in these. It's just anyway, but it was a very clear picture. So anyway, that's for me. That's what this is, Adam and Eve, and the inspiration is what connects all the pieces together. and just in the detail of the art, there's pieces of the collage that are like language. It may not be a specific language, but it is a style that we work on for communication in written language. There's other pieces that are kind of like buildings from history as part of development of cultures and civilizations and so on. Because the bottom line is, whether you believe in Adam and Eve or not, but if you do, if you think there was a first man and woman, Homo sapiens, modern Homo sapiens by the way, not Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon or ancient Homo sapiens. But I'll ask you a question about this in a moment. There's some interesting connections along the way. But so all of the languages, culture, civilizations, conflicts, good and bad, have come from that source. So it's not a good history, it's not all bad history, but it is a, we hopefully progressive, Teilhard de Chardin, the Catholic theologian, talked about the evolution of consciousness through history. This is the fundamental part of the evolution of humans as not evolving physically, but in terms of our culture and our consciousness and so on. And so all of this detail represents of this communication, the writing, the civilization, the cultures, even the piece here. There's many institutions are headed by or looked at as a symbol. Very religions have their symbol. That kind of embodies in it a lot of dialogue right there, just in that one symbol. A lot of businesses, they have their brand. They try and represent what they try and represent to the customer as features of the company that are worth buying from them for and so on. So it's not, they call it all branding, but these symbols are very important. The hieroglyphs were some of the first written language. Chinese still use similar characters today, but in that one hieroglyph there's a lot of meaning. I used to joke with some of my information systems classes on if you go to McDonald's and how do people work in McDonald's, and people have a picture of French fries on one key and then get a picture of a cheeseburger on another. So we're going back to hieroglyphs. Anyway, but this is Adam and Eve, and with the real depth of what's come from this. So this is the narrative. It is the history from the first known modern Homo sapiens that we are part of. So different from the animal part. We have the animal part, that's our animal mind, but we also have the spirit. So this is we share in terms with other spiritual beings. So this is where the higher values come from. Conscience is something that humans have, animals don't have. This is the conscience is functional part of the brain where it operates, but it is based on the spiritual mind as well as the animal mind. And they call it physical mind because it's the animal mind and the spiritual mind both work through the brain. That's they're connected, and it's the brain that kind of manages what we do and so on, all the rest of it. And we collect information. But we collect other information spiritually too. This is another thing. We're feeling about something. Some women are much more tuned into than the men, kind of intuitive things. And so these are all parts of who we are as people. And I just wanted to throw out one interesting thing. So I do some pieces on science and religion, it's one of my interest areas. And so if all of the ladies in the room, if you take a moment just to look at the other ladies around you, and just to think for one moment that you're all connected all from one woman. Scientifically, the Bible is kind of clear on it. Science, modern science is now clear on it. So the older Victorian science was in a very different realm than we are in today. But it's mitochondrial DNA. So this is DNA that's passed on only from woman to woman. So first woman passed on this DNA to the next and so on. So this is something that's transmitted only through females, no male involvement whatsoever. So all of the women in the world today are all descended from one single woman. It's just understanding of where this came from. It is one woman. We don't know it's one man. We don't know that Adam is the father of all humankind also. Here's just one story on this. So on the one place where a lot of people go different directions is around this concept of original sin. So, but when you get down to modern science, traditional conflict or difficulty of reconciling both the spiritual mind and the physical mind, or the animal mind. And the directives are different. Animals kill one another, sometimes in the same group. We do the same thing, unfortunately. One of the more aggressive species, or subspecies, there are 8 hominids altogether recognized at the moment, or one species. There are 8 subspecies, and there may be more. Modern Homo sapiens is one. The other one I remember growing up as a kid were called Cro-Magnon man, it's ancient Homo sapiens and Neanderthal man. Where does Neanderthal DNA show up today? There are no Neanderthals around anymore. Shows up in modern Homo sapiens in human. But clearly there was a mating between modern Homo sapiens at some point and Neanderthal. They coexisted at the same time period. The dating on mitochondrial Eve, but it's a scientific language, is somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000 years ago. So the most is about 10,000 generations, but maybe less than that. But as we recalibrate how the geneticists calculate the number of generations, is inching up more towards the 200,000. What's the basis there in science for Adam and Eve going a different way than they were told in the Bible? They're told not to eat the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, and if they did, they'd die. Well, my interpretation from a scientific viewpoint, not as a religious one now, but is that this was don't get married or don't start having children until you're old enough. Cats, it's a pheromone smell, this hot big stink that the female cats make when they're fertile, when they're ovulating. And so on the female side, it's more romance. There's in the natural selection process, it's the females who are more, they're the children, they spend more time raising the children, they have these nurturing skills also that come with the territory. They're able to feed the babies when they're young. They provide the colostrum, which gives the immunity to the child in its first few days of breastfeeding. In the placenta, the third trimester, through the placenta, a lot of antibodies are transferred from the mother to the child. So the child, when it's born and it's had its first few days of breastfeeding, has immunity to almost every disease that the mother has encountered. And it tends to tail off after 6 months, but there's a long tail on this because studies show that children who are breastfed carry this immunity much later in life also, than those who are fed strictly by formula and so on. Anyway, the story is plausible from a scientific viewpoint. So how did Homo sapiens live in the beginning? So monogamous species, but monogamous species, 90% of monogamous species cheat also. Just put it in context. But for the animal mind, this is good. Why is cheating good for animals? Because it spreads the gene pool around and you get healthier offspring. There's a lot of things that filter out the weaker ones. Even the mother birds with the chicks in the nest, some of the chicks, to make sure they get the food from the parents bringing it, will push other birds out of the nest. So the weak ones get pushed out of the nest, they die. There's no moral character like that. It is just selection of the fittest at that point to make sure it's a healthy species. Viruses take care of others who are getting weaker and so on, but it's both cocaine and heroin. So that is, of course, the base for sex addiction. And I've read some testimonies from women who were raped when they were younger. One was a girl of 11 who was when I say rape, and statutory rape, she willingly had sex with two older men, but the imprint of it is the high from it is addictive. And if you, this is the thing about don't have sex before marriage, or don't have sex before you have children, is that it's an addiction. One of the seemed to give them not very sensible guidance, it sent them off down the wrong track. But the story of that is that from the science viewpoint is so Eve goes out looking for choice about sex, looking for romance, this personal connection with another being, and where the young females go in the animal world, in the higher animals, higher mammals, they look for the older, more experienced males, and that's what Eve would do instinctively. So what happens when you have sex with the older, more experienced male? No contraception, you get pregnant. And so there's an interesting question that science would raise about the Cain and Abel story. Is Cain, the first son, may have been a child of a very attractive male or animal, but not a human. And this may be some explanation for, in his case, for the epigenetic transfer of the democracy is clearly the way where we start to get some equality of humanity, which is Adam and Eve were created spiritual beings, they're equal before God and before man they should be, before humanity rather, not mankind but humankind. And so here we are.
I would like to just say something about the elements of composition and how they affect the viewer, because this is a monumental piece.
Yeah.
Both of you together have created this piece. It is a diptych. It is larger than the edges of the canvas. The depth of field is so dramatic. The limited canvas, the limited colors, the way you have the objective placements of it. The fact that you brought this together as one piece is monumental. And I'm not surprised that Kevin sees it from his point of view as having a very archetypal kind of thing. But I'm sure every single person in this room will have, because it is such a monumental piece, even though the space is small, it is huge.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were able to transcend the visual into this very dynamic, archetypal origination story, I'm sure every single person in this room, because of the dynamism of this piece, is able also to look at it from their personal perspective.
Yeah.
I'm really appreciative that you were able to let us know what you were trying to achieve when you did it. In terms of the history of art, it's monumental also because it's a new way of looking at nature and spirits. And so I feel very blessed to be able to see and hear the combination of this piece being one piece between the two of you, as you are the artist, but it also is a collaborative piece in some way.
Yeah. To say, when I heard, when Kevin told me what he saw in these paintings, I was thrilled, because my hope is that people enter into the work and have an experience and see something that relates to them personally. And so even though I wasn't thinking Adam and Eve, I had other ideas, but they all relate. They relate very well to what you see. You see a lot more than what I thought I was doing. But I love these two paintings. Can I come and visit?
Well, if you really sit where I'm sitting, maybe I have the best view, you can't escape from the painting. There is a connection with every single solitary block or masterpiece that's on there. You can't get off the palette at all. So nature is like that. It just is continuing, and it gets better and better and better. And when you want to go to another one, you still go through the passageway that leads you to the next one. You can't escape it.
Thank you for taking these out of my studio. You can come and visit my studio.
That's a breakdown, yeah. Great.
Oh, wow, thank you so much.
Not only that, it goes well with the orange couch.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
yeah, orange couch.
Yep.
It's as if just filling these two spots.
Yeah.
It's
Spot here was
amazing, it's amazing that it
like it
fit
was
this
created for it.
spot so well.
Yeah.
It's where it belongs. It really
Yeah,
is.
it's home.
It's home,
It's
yes, yep,
Yeah.
we're at home.